Aloha, Dr. Greene, everybody. This is Dr. Debra Greene, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Aloha, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My background is in communication and as well as energy medicine and mind-body integration. And I also founded a coalition called keepyourpower.org. And we are a coalition of concerned Hawaii residents who want to educate people about wireless technology and to advocate for safe technology. And I'm sure we'll get into more of that in a moment.
Well, thank you very much for talking.
Thanks, Ian.
I know your time is valuable, and I really, really appreciate it. And you're actually, I'm in Oahu right now, but you're actually talking to me all the way from Maui, correct?
That's right.
And I heard about you because I myself have been interested in what's called 5G and 5G technology and how it affects us, especially in Hawaii. And I've actually I forgot how I signed up for it, but apparently I've been receiving lots of emails from the website. And it's been very informative. And I'd always made it a point to try to reach out to you or any other professionals to get more information and to get more knowledge from people as yourself. So it's been a real pleasure and honor for me to reach out to you after receiving all the lots of informative emails. And so today, we're going to just explain, I guess, in general, what actually is 5G and how did you get into it?
Yeah, thanks, Ian. Probably what might have happened is that you went to our keepyourpower.org website and you might have signed our petition, because we have a couple of petitions up there. One is to stop 5G until it can be proven safe. And the other is a petition to stop the giant football field sized drones that have been proposed for the island of Lanai, 5G drones. We can talk more about that too if you want.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, to loop back to your question, how I got involved in this. Well, as I mentioned, my background is in energy medicine, and I have a book out called Endless Energy, The Essential Guide to Energy Health. And I've been educating people about the dangers of wireless radiation for, I don't know, over a decade, probably closer to 15 years. Because being in energy health and energy medicine, there are certain biotechnologies that allow us to actually see the effects of this type of radiation on the human biofield, and it's not a pretty picture. And so I've known for a very long time about those compromises into, our health and well-being. And so in my Endless Energy book, I have a section in there about wireless radiation and what you can do to help protect yourself and things like that. And then the next thing that happened is in the neighborhood that I live in here on Maui, the particular neighborhood was chosen as a pilot project for smart meters. And this happened back in 2012.
Wow.
And, because we were chosen as a pilot project, we were getting all of this propaganda in the mail, saying, oh, this is the best thing ever. Sign up for a smart meter. It's going to save you money. It's going to do all these great things. And, smart meters are basically utility meter that gets mounted onto your home, and it replaces, the old electric meter that has the dials on it and stuff. It replaces that with a digital meter that emits wireless radiation and communicates with other smart meters and with smart meter hubs. And because it's mounted on your home, you can't move it, you can't shut it off, and it's basically emitting, radiation into your home pretty much 24/7, 365. So very bad news. And so that's when I became what I call the accidental activist. I mean, I realized I couldn't just stand by and let this happen. And so I I started, organizing and, became kind of a community organizer. I raised some money. I collaborated with Josh Del Sol of TakeBackYourPower.net. And at that time, Josh had recently released his award-winning documentary, Take Back Your Power, which is exposing the whole smart meter agenda. And so Josh came to Maui, did, some screenings, and he visited some of the other islands as well here in Hawaii. And then shortly after that, with the money that I had raised, I was able to purchase 600 copies of his award-winning DVD. And then I recruited a bunch of volunteers, and we went door to door in this neighborhood, and we gave everyone a free copy of that DVD, Keep Your Power. I'm sorry, Take Back Your Power. And then an information packet. And the goal of the utility company, Hawaiian Electric, was to get at least 200 households in our neighborhood to voluntarily sign up for these smart meters.
Right.
And in the end, they ended up with about 66 households.
Well, that's good. So you definitely had an effect.
Nobody came out and said, well, we missed our goal because, these activists and volunteers were doing all these things. But, we have reason to believe that we did have some impact, yes.
It seems that way to me, yeah.
And so then,
they wouldn't want to acknowledge it.
I know, right? And then, so that was kind of the beginning of the coalition, that I formed, which is keepyourpower.org. And then, we were kind of celebrating that. And then Hawaiian Electric came out and said they're going to blanket all of the islands with smart meters. And so then we ramped up our efforts even more. And I headed up a notice of liability effort here in collaboration with InPower Movement. And we filed notices of liability. And that proposal was withdrawn. And they went from saying that everybody was going to get a smart meter, and if you didn't want a smart meter, you would have to pay an opt-out fee, a one-time opt-out fee, plus you'd have to pay a monthly fee.
Wow.
You'd have to pay to not have a smart meter. And so they went from that proposal to almost the complete opposite, where they said nobody's going to have a smart meter unless they want one, or unless they have a new account or solar. So it was a pretty dramatic shift. And again, there's no way of really knowing if it was our efforts that, were directly the so-called cause of that. But the timing is kind of interesting. And the bottom line is that here, on the Hawaiian Islands, we have very few smart meters. The exception to that is the island of Kauai, because Kauai is not part of the Hawaiian Electric system. They have their own utility.
Interesting.
And the island of Kauai, sadly, is blanketed with smart meters. They have over 30,000 smart meters there.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. So for people right now watching that don't know, that are laymen or outsiders to this, they might be wondering, now why is a smart meter bad opposed to a normal meter? What is it, or what kind of effects are negative that these smart meters are giving off? What kind of wireless radiation is it giving off, and what is it actually doing? Why is it bad?
Yeah, well, there's several reasons why smart meters are bad. One reason is that unlike, the dial meter, the old, analog meter, yes, which is a mechanical meter, I mean, number one, those meters last forever. I mean, nobody ever would have their dial meter replaced because there was no need to replace them. They just lasted forever. Those dial meters don't emit any radiation because they're mechanical. They're not,
wheels. Yeah, mechanical. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And as opposed to smart meters, which are digital, and they emit, radiation because they communicate wirelessly. And so nobody comes to your house to read your meter. Like, there used to be meter readers. They'd come to your house, they look at the dials, they record your, usage, and that would happen about once a month.
Right.
With smart meters, those meter readers lose their jobs, which is not good. We want people to be employed. Smart meters don't last very long. They have a very short lifespan.
Mm-hmm.
So they're expensive because they have to be replaced more frequently. And they also, because they communicate wirelessly, they emit wireless radiation, which is a known toxin. And we can get into the health effects of that in a moment.
Sure.
In addition, what smart meters do is let's put it this way, every electrical appliance, device, everything inside your home that uses electricity has a unique electrical signature, so that when you look at those electrical signatures, you can tell, is this person, using a coffee maker, or are they using a teapot? What time do they get up in the morning? Because then the hot water heater kicks in if you're taking a shower. And there's a different electrical signature, in time if you're taking a bath, and so forth. So by getting all of this detailed information through your electrical usage, smart meters end up tracking you inside your home. They end up being surveillance devices.
Basically monitoring all of your daily activities within your own home, kind of an invasion of privacy.
Yes. So, they can tell when you're home, when you're not home, if you're on vacation, if you're not, what time you get up in the morning, what time you go to sleep at night, and whether you raid the refrigerator in the middle of the night. I mean, on and on it goes. And so, yes, it's a mass invasion into our private lives inside our homes. And this is one of the reasons that the Hawaii ACLU has come out against smart meters, because of those, privacy invasion aspect of them.
And it seems to me that information can be exploited for negative reasons as well.
It can, and it can also be marketed and sold to the highest bidder.
Oh, yes.
Because data is the next cash cow. Data is the next industrial revolution. Data is the next gold mine.
Right.
Data is where all the money is coming from and all the money is going. Absolutely. And so that data is in itself worth a lot of money. And so it represents an additional revenue stream for the utilities. And yes, they fully intend to market that.
So in other words, besides profiting from an electric bill, they could some people could potentially be making billions upon, or maybe even trillions, just from the data coming off of these electric devices. That's
exactly it. And in fact, the president of the Kauai Electric Cooperative was quoted several years ago after the blanket installation of smart meters on the island of Kauai. He was quoted at a conference as saying that the data that they're getting from those smart meters on Kauai is like the difference between looking at an X-ray versus looking at a functional MRI. Like you can track things in real time. You can track in minute detail in real time what people are doing inside their homes, and that's scary.
It definitely is, and I can definitely see an incentive there from somebody that would be maybe greedy, that would want to use that information to purely profit at the expense of somebody's privacy or safety. So that's definitely something people should know about. As far as health effects, what should we be concerned about?
Yes. So, I'll just pick up on this story for a moment. So, we had the smart meter issue, and we had some success in curtailing, the deployment of smart meters in most of Hawaii. And we were just sort of taking a rest from that. And then 5G arrived on the scene. And, 5G is another threat in its own right, and we can talk about that because 5G is another technology that is emitting this wireless radiation. So, I mean, wireless radiation has very well established health effects. The problem is we just don't hear a lot about it.
Yeah,
and the health effects, sorry,
yeah.
go ahead.
I was just saying it's not surprising that we wouldn't hear about it if these people are looking more towards profit than safety.
Yes, they're following what is sometimes called the tobacco playbook. And using what's sometimes called tobacco science. And the reason that term is used is because, I mean, I don't know how old you are, but you're probably not old enough to remember when cigarette smoking was recommended by doctors and physicians. I am old enough to remember this.
my parents or my aunties and my mother was a smoker. Yeah, and I'm 38. But I do remember it being somewhat fashionable, where it was in movies and it was in magazines, and it was just Joe Camel was selling it to kids and all of that. So I actually did work for or volunteered for the American Lung and Heart Association to speak out against cigarette smoke. So I totally relate to what you're saying. Yeah, that makes total sense. But tobacco, that's good for people to know, because that makes things relatable. This is similar, and it's something that they want to make money off of at the expense of people's health. It's totally a great analogy.
Yeah. So what happened with tobacco was, they knew that their product was harmful, and instead of revealing that, they did the opposite. They hid the research. They discounted any scientists who tried to oppose smoking, or who tried to say that smoking was harmful. They tried to pay off researchers so that they wouldn't, publish their research in the first place. They poured on the propaganda to the public, trying to convince everybody that smoking is not only safe, but good for you.
Right.
My best friend's mother was told by her physician to smoke cigarettes during her pregnancy. She was told by her doctor that it would help her with the pregnancy. And this was very common,
Yeah.
because the propaganda from big tobacco was so convincing. And, fast forward to now, the same thing is happening with, 5G and cell phones and so forth. We're being convinced that these devices and this technology is necessary for our safety.
Right.
And it's absolutely not true. And as we know, with the whole smoking fiasco, it took decades. And it took people suffering and dying, so many people suffering and dying before the laws got changed and, things turned around, and we know better now. So, with this issue, we're really trying to close that gap in time, because we don't have decades.
Right. Yeah. I just saw a commercial the other day for T-Mobile's new 5G rollout. And in the commercial, you're right, it's like cigarettes. They were laughing, they were smiling, and they were like making it like it's the great new cool thing, and didn't even mention any side effects, didn't even mention any health effects. And I'm just kind of startled myself to see it just so widely put out there with major companies such as, well, I don't want to put anybody under the bus or create trouble or attention, but I mean the cell phone companies, and like you said, Hawaiian Electric was putting the smart meters in, and then we've got Spectrum and all of these service providers, and it's like it's obvious that of course they want to make money from people with cell phone service and internet service. That's obvious, but what's not obvious is how it affects us negatively, because you're absolutely right. There seems to be, like cigarettes, a negative effect on our health that people are just not perceiving right now. And I'm like you said, we don't have as much time for a bunch of people to then develop all these medical problems to then, it'll be too late by then when all of these people start coming out and saying, well, look what it does to us. By then, it will be a set up infrastructure. And so,
well, yes, and it's already set up. I mean, there are obviously towers and antennas everywhere, and I mean, this wireless radiation is spraying out everywhere.
right,
And you know, the industry, they know that it's harmful. They know that because if you read the fine print, you know, if forget the fine print, if you read the owner's manual of your cell phone, which most people do not do.
Yeah.
But if you actually read the owner's manual of your cell phone, you will see that in there it says that in order to operate your cell phone safely, you have to keep it at least a half an inch off your body.
Right.
And, you know, nobody, and why? Why do they say that? Because they know that the technology is not safe, especially if you hold it next to your body.
And live.
One of the worst things you can do is to hold the cell phone, you know, up to your head next to your brain. It's one of the worst things you could do.
I always speak on speakerphone. Yeah.
That's very good. Speakerphone, using speakerphone. And, you know, I actually don't even have my cell phone here, but let's say this is my cell phone, which it isn't. It's a calculator. But I do use a cell phone. I'm not a Luddite, you know, I'm not in favor of going backwards. I'm a technology lover. I use technology all the time, but we have to learn how to use it safely. Because it's definitely buyer beware, you know. The burden is on us to learn and use it safely. So if this is my cell phone, you know, not only do you want to use speaker, but when you use speaker, don't hold the phone in your hand. Put it on your desk, put it on a table, get it off of your body. That's really important for safe use. And if you can't use speaker because you're in a public place and you don't want everybody to hear your conversation, you know, then get a headset. But, you know, the important thing is get the phone off your body and don't hold it in your hand, and definitely don't hold it next to your brain.
I tell that to people all the time, because even on some of these phones, if you go through the settings and you got to dig for it, and there's like a warranty and a liability warning, it even, some of these phones even say don't keep it in your pocket. And you think, well, where does everybody keep their cell phone, right? It's in the pocket.
Exactly.
The companies themselves are saying, don't even put it next to your body. Don't put it next to your heart. Don't put it next to your head. So
here's the thing. One thing that you can do if you feel like, well, I have to have my phone in my pocket, you know, I'm a guy, I'm not going to carry a purse, you know, whatever. Put the phone in airplane mode. And if you put the phone in airplane mode, which is super easy to do, you just, you know, slide, what's that? Is that called scroll up? Slide? What is that?
Like that, yeah.
You just flip, you know, just run your finger up the phone and the little airplane icon will show up and you touch it, put the phone in airplane mode, and that cuts the radiation. And so then, you know, you can put the phone in your pocket if you want, or, you know, whatever. But it just means that if people try to call you or send you a text message, it's going to go to voicemail or whatever. And then, you know, you can take your phone out and take it out of airplane mode and collect all of your messages and do what you want to do, respond, whatever, and then put the phone back in airplane mode. That's another safer way to use your phone.
Yeah, definitely. I think a big part of us is the burden of being responsible with our devices and not being addicted to them, and actually having the discipline to, sometimes maybe I need to put my phone in the other room, or maybe I need to make a time to check my messages, and maybe not depend on it so much, and start to change your lifestyle a little bit to accommodate it. That's what I did.
That's great. I'm so proud of you, Ian. And another thing that people don't realize is that when your phone is in airplane mode, you can still use the alarm. You know, so like if you use your phone as your alarm, just put it in airplane mode at night, for heaven's sake.
Right.
And you can still use your alarm, but it just means you're not going to be irradiated all night long.
Right, exactly.
You know, which is very harmful. You can also, with the phone in airplane, you can listen to music that you have downloaded onto your phone. You can use the camera. You can take pictures and videos, and there's lots of things that you can still do on your phone, even if it's in airplane mode.
Right.
So, you know, please don't make the mistake of keeping your phone on and sleeping with it in your bed.
Yes.
Some people actually do that, and it just...
Yeah, I know.
very intense.
And
so
kids need to be aware of that too. Parents should tell their kids, because kids now are developing a phone addiction that previous generations never had. And these kids are being so dependent on these devices, and parents aren't even telling them how it's affecting their development or their radiation-wise.
yeah.
What are some of the physical effects, though?
So, this wireless radiation has been linked to really like a whole array of harmful health effects, ranging from, brain tumors and various types of cancers to dementia, memory loss. It affects the heart. Cardiac dysfunction, leukemia is another illness that has been tied to wireless radiation. Damage to our DNA, which is like the fundamental building block of our functioning. It's been shown to disrupt our immune system. It's been linked to anxiety and depression, reproductive harm. And reproductive harm, and particularly in men, damage to the testes and also to sperm, lowered sperm counts, and a diminishment of sperm motility, which means that it affects the ability of the sperm to actually swim. Insomnia is another, condition that has been linked to wireless radiation. Behavior disruption, cell damage, breaching of the blood-brain barrier, changes in our brain waves. I mean, the list goes on and on, Ian. It's really quite
alarming,
quite daunting. And then, I mean, when we're talking about 5G, the thing about 5G is that it includes all of this nasty stuff from 4G and 3G and what have you, because with 5G, none of that's going to go away. All the towers and antennas are going to stay, and they're going to be added onto. And 5G actually will include all of that, plus this new previously unused part of the electromagnetic spectrum, which is called millimeter waves.
Right.
And, millimeter waves are different. And because 5G is going to use, those millimeter waves in addition to everything else, we're talking about, really large amounts of data at high rates in short distances. And the other thing about these 5G enabled devices, whether it's a 5G phone or a 5G, like a smart, smart mattress or a smart diaper or a smart, washer or dryer or a smart ceiling fan or whatever, which all of this stuff exists right now and more. Those 5G or smart enabled devices contain thousands of antennas, and these millimeter waves and these 5G enabled devices, they're designed to track and follow you, which is a different type of functionality than we've had in the past. And so it's much more damaging because of that. And the millimeter waves are absorbed by our skin, which is the largest organ of the body, by our sweat glands, our eyes, the testes. This type of millimeter wave has been shown to alter our cell membranes. And again, in addition, alterations in the immune system, the circulatory systems, the heart, the brain, the liver, the kidneys. It's bad.
I've actually heard a little bit about this millimeter waves, studying research of my own and some experience of just looking into military technology. And I've actually heard of certain militaries using millimeter waves as a sort of weapon, where they can use beam weapons to, like you said, point it at your skin and have all these effects to deter you as a type of deterrent. And I don't know, have you ever heard of active denial system?
I have heard of it, and I am aware of the fact that millimeter waves have in the past been used for military applications in terms of crowd control, and have never before been used for commercial use, as they are now.
So that would indicate that these commercial users know of the military aspects of it. And essentially what people don't realize is that potentially these devices could also be weapons, right?
I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is that they have been used in the past, and now that type of technology, that wavelength is now being used for commercial purposes for people to use on their cell phones.
The implication seems scary, and it seems that I wouldn't be sure if somebody wouldn't abuse that, that ability.
You are entitled to your opinion.
Right. That's and I'm stating that's
and I honor that. That is not a position of my coalition, but we honor
Absolutely.
that everybody has their own opinion on these things. I would also like to point out that another frightening aspect of 5G technology is, there's a couple of things. One is we're told, by the industry that this means, faster downloads and lower lag time, and it's such a great thing. But really, 5G is about artificial intelligence and the Internet of Things. It's about ushering in robotics and driverless cars and the Internet of Things, meaning the Internet of everything, where every single thing in existence, everything in your environment, everything in contact with your body, everything inside your body, because we now have smart pills, which people can take as a medication, and it can track what's going on inside your body when you take that, and it can also track whether or not you have taken that medication, and report that to your doctor, report that to your insurance company, whatever. So just know that 5G isn't really about faster downloads and lower latency. It's about artificial intelligence, robotics, the Internet of everything, everything.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you brought that up, and you said two key things. You said smart
the other thing,
and you said in your body. And I've actually saw a news story in Sweden or Switzerland where people were putting chips in their hands for like opening doors and money systems that are not a pill that you swallow and then expel, but something that's permanently staying in your body that's connected to Wi-Fi, internet. And that's also very interesting and profound.
Yes, and already here and already being used by by some companies. So that they don't have to worry about their employee having a key that they can lose, or having a card that you swipe which they can give to somebody else or lose or whatever. People get chipped and then scanned with this chip inside their bodies and so forth and so on. Yes, the array of so-called smart devices is really scary, and if anything has the word smart on it, run run away, because it means that you're being surveilled. So the other aspect of 5G that I want to mention for sure is the satellites, because in addition to ground antennas in the millions, by the way, 5G also involves satellites, and at the moment we're talking approximately 100,000 new satellites in mostly low orbit, but low to mid orbit, and these satellites beaming down toxic radiation 24/7, 365, so that the entire planet Earth is blanketed in radiation, and with no refuge, no place to hide, no sanctuary, no protected place. And this is particularly disturbing when we think about people who have what's called, electrosensitivity, which I do not like that term, because it somehow implies that these people are like special and extra sensitive and like there's something wrong with them. We could also refer to it as microwave poisoning, or microwave harm, or microwave sickness, because this radiation that we're talking about is in the microwave frequency. And the fact is, all of us are being, negatively impacted by it, whether we feel it or not. It's just that people who have microwave sickness they can feel it, so they have symptoms. And, if it comes to a point where they cannot find refuge anywhere, protection, safety, be shielded from this, that's very, very sad. And
So shielding, that's a good topic. I looked online and I was wondering your opinion on different methods of shielding or buffering. And one of them I looked at, well, there's two. One of them I looked at was something called Orgonite. I don't know if you've heard of that, which you put it by a router and it buffers the microwave radiation. There's another one that is like a type of clothing it's like, I don't want to say it's like a metal or aluminum or anything like that, but it's got a certain fabric that blocks EMF and 5G radiation. How do you perceive that, or what is your opinion on that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because, shielding is pretty widely available now, where it used to be kind of an obscure thing. Here's the thing about shielding, Ian. You have to be very, very careful with shielding. And it's because a lot of shielding, well, let me back up a step. So we're talking about microwave frequencies here. And if anybody has ever, had a microwave oven, which I hope you don't, but if you do, or you used to have one, you probably were told that you should not put anything metal into your microwave oven. And if you've ever accidentally done that, which I have, you notice that sparks fly. And the reason the sparks fly is because microwaves cannot penetrate through metal. And so if you're using a metal dish, for example, instead of the microwaves being able to excite the molecules of the food and cook the food, they end up being repelled by the metal, and that causes the sparking. So that's why, because microwaves cannot penetrate through metal, that's why a lot of shielding contains metal. And because that's what provides the shielding, right? But what happens with the shielding is that not only does it act as a barrier for the microwaves coming in, but it can also act as a trap if there are any microwaves on the other side of it. So what happens is sometimes people make the mistake of buying, like a, shielding, and they put it up on the wall because like maybe they have an antenna nearby, and so they put up shielding thinking I'm blocking the radiation from that antenna that's, outside my window over there. Or maybe it's a smart meter they're trying to block, whatever. If you inside your home have a cell phone on, are using a cordless phone, have a Wi-Fi router running, have a friend come over with their cell phone on, the shielding can create a situation where it can actually end up being harmful. Like
a baked potato or something?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's tricky.
And the same thing happens, by the way, when people use their cell phones inside a car, because a car is basically a metal box, right? With wheels. And so if you're talking on a cell phone inside your car, you're drawing that microwave radiation into the inside of your car, and then it bounces around inside there because it's inside a metal box and it can't easily get out. And so it turns your car into a mobile microwave oven with you on the inside.
Right.
So
wow.
it is not a good idea to use a cell phone inside a car or a bus or a train or, you know, a subway or whatever. So just put the phone in airplane mode and you know, don't talk on your phone when you're in the car. You know, if you need to make a phone call, pull over, get out of the car, make your phone call, back in the car and back into airplane mode. That's the safe way to use your phone.
Yeah, too bad more people don't know. It's such a cultural thing nowadays for people to be glued to their phone. It's really seems like an uphill battle.
It's true, but we just have to make people aware. Awareness, awareness, awareness. I'm going to now take a moment to proudly display.
Yes.
Can you see it? Am I holding it right?
5G is bad for children and other living things. Protect Hawaii, no 5G. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, so we have these bumper stickers. And we also have these door hangers. Can you see that?
Urgent notice, 5G antennas and towers are coming to our neighborhoods, posing an undeniable risk to our health. Involuntary exposure to wireless radiation is not acceptable. 5G ready antennas are not required for better service or public safety. Learn more about 5G, keepyourpower.org. Awesome. Love it.
And then there's also the backside, which I will not force you to read because there's a lot, but there's a lot of facts on the back. So,
wonderful.
You know, we're really doing our best to get the word out and to help raise awareness and educate people about this important issue. We have all kinds of projects going on right now. We have a voter guide that's going to be coming out soon, where, you know, we have contacted the candidates. We also had put out a voter guide for the primary election.
I saw that.
Yeah, where our group of what I call phone angels, we're all volunteers, right? So we have a group of volunteer phone angels who made all these phone calls contacting the candidates and asking their stand on 5G and, you know, to make 5G a campaign issue, to get it top of mind to these candidates, and also so we can share with others to help inform your vote. And so we have another voter guide coming out soon to guide people, you know, in the general election. Brilliant. So I'm just going to say, please visit our website, keepyourpower.org, sign the petitions. And when you do that, you have the option to opt into our newsletter, and please do opt in because that's how we keep in touch with you. You know, we vigilantly protect your email privacy, but we do need to be able to communicate with you and let you know when there are important issues happening. You know, when we need you to testify, if there's a hearing about a tower coming up, and things like that. We've been able so far to successfully either stop or curtail 3 towers so far, which is pretty cool.
That is awesome. Yeah.
The other thing I'll just quickly mention is that there's a lot of confusion around what is 5G and what isn't, you know, and it's, in a nutshell, people need to understand that 5G is a marketing term. It's a big telecom marketing term. And because of that, it can mean whatever big telecom wants it to mean. And they keep changing the meaning, okay? So, you know, what we know now is that pretty much any tower or antenna that is being erected at this point, or has been recently, is either 5G or it's 4G, perhaps most likely beefed up 4G, that is very easily convertible to 5G with a software upgrade. So, you know, don't get too hung up on the G's, because, you know, 4G is not safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not like, oh, if it's 4G, life is good. There's no problem. Everything's fine. As long as we can keep 5G away. I mean, 5G has its own problems, yes, and it's bad, but it doesn't mean that 4G is fine, because it isn't. So, and if a tower goes up and they're like, oh, it's 4G, it's okay. Don't just sit back and think it's okay, because that tower can easily be converted to 5G with a software upgrade, and no permit is needed for that. The telecom doesn't have to go back to the county to get the permit or anything. They can just do that.
Right.
And I'm sorry, I just keep kind of stream of consciousness here, but the other thing I want to say is that the power to regulate 5G lies at the county level, okay? Primarily at the county level. So, that's really where we need to focus our efforts, which means, Honolulu County, which means Maui County, Hawaii County, Kauai County. That's where we need to focus our efforts.
Yes.
And, yes, there are issues we can address at the federal level. Yes, there are issues we can address at the state level. But at the moment, the way that those laws are enacted at those levels, at the moment, the county does have the power and authority to regulate, this infrastructure. And it mostly happens through planning, the planning department. So I just want people to know that, because sometimes people are like, what can we do? Who do we even contact?
Right.
What if a tower's going up? Who do I contact? Contact planning at the county. Okay. Yeah. That's where you need to focus.
Good information.
And don't let them give you a runaround, because they will. Probably. It's happened to me.
Right. So that's excellent information, Ben. I was actually going to ask you that, what the individual can do. And it seems like grassroots and community and awareness, and what you're doing is a great example. So I definitely want to encourage people, and I will put all the links in the descriptions and in the video when I upload it. But I wanted to address a couple more questions, and I don't want to take up too much of your time. But when you speak about Hawaii specifically, I know this is a worldwide thing, but for us in particular, and especially a lot of my audience in Hawaii, we can consider this a microcosm, because it seems to me that in some state, there's similar things going on, if not the exact same thing, but they either have the meters or the drones or the lights or the Gwen towers or such. So as far as Hawaii is concerned, how do you feel, or what do you think the drones are being used for, and smart lights? What is your take on the smart lights and those two things dealing with Hawaii in particular? How do you perceive that?
So when you're asking about drones, do you mean the giant football field sized drones?
Sure, let's talk about that.
Yeah. So though that project, the purpose of it, from what we know and understand, and I'll just say that particular project is backed by Google, or shall we say Alphabet, and First Bank, which is a Japanese tech giant, and AeroVironment, which is a California defense manufacturer company. So those are the key players, in that project. And the purpose of that project, and it's kind of on pause right now, okay? But it's not dead, it's not over, it's not finished, it's just kind of in a pause phase. Talk more about that in a moment. But the intention of that project was to turn the island of Lanai into a drone manufacturing plant, where these giant football field sized drones would be manufactured on the island of Lanai and launched into the stratosphere throughout the equatorial belt. And the stated purpose of it was for them to beam down this, 5G radiation to bring interconnectivity to underserved areas, rural, remote underserved areas. and also areas, you know, like on the island of Kauai that have like valleys and ravines where tower signals don't travel very well. The project started out as a 5G project, and then my coalition, Keep Your Power, got wind of it, and we rose up and spoke out against it. And the developers immediately removed 5G and said that it would be 4G instead. The next thing that happened is that they got a lawsuit filed against them. And so now the project is being kind of reworked, configured, and now it's, instead of going through the Lanai Planning Commission, which is an all-volunteer commission of, you know, residents from Lanai, it's now at the state level and has to go through the state. And they have required an environmental review and things like that. So so that's where that's at right now, but it is not at all over, you know, so please be aware. At some point we're going to have to, there's going to be a hearing, and we're going to have to, you know, testify en masse, many of us, in order to voice our opinion about that. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, and smart lights. How do you see that?
I don't know about smart lights. Not aware of what a smart light is.
Well, I saw an article in London, I think, is where they started it, and I do believe in some American cities is where they are trying to basically, instead of building a Gwen tower or you know, an antenna, they're just incorporating it into the street lights. So it would be like.
I think you're talking about something called Li-Fi, as in light.
Oh, there's that as well. There's that.
Oh, so this is different than that.
But these would be basically street lights that give off Wi-Fi, 5G. That they have microphones, cameras, basically an all-in-one device, but that is also under the guise of a street lamp. And I
can't comment on it because this is the first time I'm hearing about it. Okay. You know, what I will say about the Hawaiian Islands is that at this point in time, to the best of my knowledge, there are no 5G small cells on the island of Maui, the Big Island, or the island of Kauai. Okay. However, Oahu has many.
I've seen.
Has many 5G small cells. Yeah. So, you know, Oahu sadly is being targeted, and it's targeted with the 5G small cells because those are the ones that are primarily used for densely populated urban areas, like cities, and also football stadiums, concert arenas, where you get a lot of people, you know, packed into a certain space. That's where those 5G small cells are typically deployed. It does not mean that we don't have 5G on the neighbor islands, because we do.
Right.
And you know, what we have right now is T-Mobile 5G, and T-Mobile is not using those high frequency millimeter waves that the small cells typically transmit, although they're also using small cells now for 4G, by the way. Welcome to the ever-changing terrain, you know, of this issue. But, you know, we do have the T-Mobile 5G, which basically transmits in a lower frequency band, not the millimeter waves, but a lower frequency band, but still 5G. So
it seems like there's an ultimate goal here, or a converging agenda between all of these different implications. I'll just gonna ask a couple more questions. I want to end on a positive note, but I did want to ask you one question only because I get it a lot personally and I don't know how to answer it. Okay. And you don't have to answer it if you don't want to, but it's kind of a difficult one. 5G and vaccines and coronavirus. Do you see any connection?
You're right. It's a tricky question. So here's the thing. I mean, to my mind, there's plenty of problematic, troubling, and harmful evidence against 5G, independent of that. And so it's sort of like, we don't even need to go there, I mean, but I will say that I have seen some published research, published meaning not in a peer-reviewed journal, but I just mean public research made public by Dr. Magda Havas, who is one of the foremost researchers in the arena of wireless radiation. She's at Trent University, okay. and she has, shared publicly some research that she did showing a correlation between 5G deployments and, COVID-19. We know that correlation is not causation.
Right.
Okay?
Right, of course.
So I really want to make that distinction, and I do not want anybody to say that I'm saying,
right.
That 5G is causing the virus. No, yeah. I am not saying that, okay? Yeah. But I'm saying that there is some research that does show a correlation, with the understanding that correlation is not causation. So that's my response. And I hope that's crystal clear.
That's a very good response. And I understand where you're coming from, and I understand what you're saying. Yeah, it's a difficult question. I only ask because people ask me that, and I figured, I might as well ask an expert.
It doesn't hurt to ask. I support you in asking.
And so I appreciate it. And so last two things is I wanted to ask you one final question, and then you can, excuse me, let me turn this off.
That's pretty funny.
And so my question is that before the final thing I just wanted to end on a positive note and just have you once again let people know what they can do and where they can reach you. But before I ask that, if we don't do anything, if people just decide to ignore this issue, and if people decide that it's not important to them, or that it's okay, or that it's safe, and we essentially don't speak up about it or advocate against it or take note, or no awareness, no information, no education, what do you see happening if this 5G takes precedence? What do you see happening if we don't do anything about it? Where do you perceive it going?
Well, where is my crystal ball? I seem to have misplaced it.
Hard question. Yeah.
Let me say this. I mean, I cannot predict, but there are experts who are making predictions. Mm-hmm. One of them is Arthur Furstenberg, who is the author of the extraordinary book, The Invisible Rainbow. And if you're interested in these issues, I highly recommend that you read that book from cover to cover. It is astounding and eye-opening. So, Arthur has made predictions, and, he actually predicts annihilation. And that's because this radiation and this extreme level of saturation of towers and antennas and satellites and devices and everything emitting, with that level of densification and saturation, that not only does it harm humans, but it's harmful to all life forms. And that includes the pollinators, bees, it includes insects in particular. Mm-hmm. It includes plants. Yeah. It includes animals, mammals, birds. I mean, the list.
The complete biosphere.
All life forms.
Right.
And so, when all life forms are being harmed, it becomes difficult to see how there can be, survival beyond that. The other expert who has made predictions is Dr. Martin Pall. And he is, another very credentialed researcher in, wireless radiation harm, University of Washington, and has written extensively on, the effects, the biological harm, particularly of, 5G, but has articulated the mechanisms of harm of non-ionizing radiation, which go way beyond the heating of tissue, by the way.
Right.
But at any rate, he predicts 5 years. 5 years, and we're
I'm hearing that number often.
We disappear.
I'm hearing that number a lot. Dr. Debra Greene, I just want to commend you, and I want to say that I'm very impressed, and I'm very humbled, and I'm honored to be able to speak with you. And
we didn't end on a positive note.
Well, we will. But I want to make sure that I say that I'm happy personally that you can name other university professors, doctors, scientists, and there's other people such as yourself that there's hope. We're not alone as the common person, the average citizen, that there are people out there writing books, publishing information. It's available, and all people need to do is look into it, do their part, and we can avoid annihilation, hopefully. And we do have a short time, like you said, some people are saying 5 years. So I have hopes, and I believe that this video may help 1 or 2 or 3 people. Hopefully, I feel like this is a good thing, and I'm very honored. So if people want to do something and take part, and people in Hawaii want to reach out and contact you and get involved, what should they do?
Best thing to do is to go to our website.
Right.
keepyourpower.org. Yep. And sign the petitions, and you can contact me through the website. And yeah, that's the best thing to do, because we're building a coalition. We already have over 4,000 people in our coalition. There's power in numbers, and together we are stronger.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's very important that we do organize, and that we do work together. And when hearings come up, or when initiatives are launched, that we do participate and take our part. And it does mean interfacing with our elected officials. It really does. And I try to make it as easy as possible for you to do that, like step by step by step. I hold your hand, I walk you through it, so that it's easy. You can just click here, click there, do this, do that. I really make it easy, but we need you. We need as many people as possible, because it all matters. Each of one of you matters. Your voice matters.
Yeah, excellent. I agree, and I appreciate and thank you for saying that. And I really hope that anybody who follows anything that I say or do will go to the website, sign up. Right, you guys have a way to sign up to get email notifications, look into the information, and there's contacts there. I highly recommend it personally. I highly respect Dr. Greene, and I wouldn't be talking to her if I didn't. So if you know me, if whatever my little voice counts, that's my little 2 cents into it. I really I respect and I appreciate you, Dr. Greene. So thank you for talking to me. I'm humbled. I feel like, wow, talking to me, I'm so privileged. So I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you, Ian. I appreciate the invitation and the opportunity very, very much. And it's people like you, taking that step, reaching out, doing your part.
Right.
That's what it takes. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Aloha and mahalo. And I hope we can
talk.
Yes. I hope we can talk again soon.